Agree with that 100%.
Okay, we are on the air. I will call this meeting of the Durham Board of Selectmen to order, March 28, 2023. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have all members present. Any amendments to the agenda? None. Okay. Public comment. So this would be the, except for the Freeport Scholarship Foundation, which is on the agenda. This would be the one opportunity for public comment on any issues before the board tonight. It will not be a workshop format like it was last week for some of the issues. And so now would be the time to, if you're here for public comment, come on up, have a seat, state your name, and then what you'd like to say. Going once. Okay, we'll close public comment. So we have some guests here from the Freeport Scholarship Foundation to talk with the board about something. So please come on up and introduce yourselves. And
thank you for having us on the agenda tonight. My name is Kim Wing. I'm a current board member of Freeport High School Scholarship Foundation. And this is Fred Palmer, a founding board member. And Fred's going to give you a little history. They all have this in there.
Okay. Thank you for seeing us tonight. A fellow by the name of John Patterson and I were fortunate enough to chair the fundraising effort for the Tri-Town Track and Field Project, which many of you may know of, was the track and field at the Freeport High School, your high school.
yes,
Our high school.
My son is on the track team. Thank you
Is he
very
really?
much for your efforts.
It's a wonderful facility, and he and I had a great time. We kind of snowballed into the thing where we were just running in front of the parade, taking all the credit. But it turned out to be a great project. And since John's not here, obviously, since we had time and both were retired, we tried to figure out what we wanted to do next. After I retired, I coached for 6 years at Greeley High School in an effort to spend time with my grandchildren. I coached girls lacrosse. And in that process of coaching, I noticed that the kids' dreams about where they wanted to go after high school and the family's ability to fund it were sometimes at odds with each other, and saw a fair amount of disappointment in the kids' eyes because they couldn't do what they had wanted to do. And John had we both mentored in high school and middle school. So what we decided to do is we would try to explore what the opportunity was with a scholarship foundation. And we scoured the state and so forth, but there were two significant organizations that we dealt with. One was the Mitchell Foundation, which was started by George Mitchell. And it's he gives 2 scholarships every year to each high school in the state. And they are $10,000 scholarships, $2,500 a year for 4 years. And but the significant aspect of that, besides the money, is that every kid that's in that program has to be has to have a mentor. And the mentor is responsible for keeping track of the kid and corresponding and meeting with the kid and helping him or her through the process of navigating whatever that post-secondary education is. The other one is the USM Promise Foundation, which has, I think, $7 to $10 million in it. And it is a program whereby kids who apply to USM and qualify get a full ride for 4 years. And it's obviously funded from that foundation fund. And again, that program has a staff of mentors, paid mentors that are available and help the kids through the process. Two other factors. I have a friend up in the Norway, South Paris area who was responsible for funding the Oxford Hills Scholarship Foundation, which has $11 million in it. And that program, and there's another one in Brunswick that has $8 million in it, but those programs fund a kid for 1 year. And the Oxford Hills program the range might be a couple of $100 to $5,000 for the kid. But I think the issue could be that what happens in year 2 when they don't have that money available to them. So we developed, and this is where the board came on board. We developed a plan and then asked people like Kim to join, and we have 12 members on our board now, that we provide a 4-year scholarship. This is for, there are two programs. The 4-year scholarship to a college is $5,000 a year for 4 years. And then there is a vocational program, which provides $4,000 a year for up to 4 years. But obviously, if the program's less than 4 years, then we only fund it for that period. And we really found that we needed this meaningful amount of money. But again, we instituted a mentoring program. The mentoring program is all volunteers, and Kim will tell you about that. And those were the two factors that we wanted to include in our program. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Kim to tell you what we're about.
Thanks, Fred. So we are a 501(c) established in 21 to provide support for our RSU 5 students. The students apply through an application process, which was formerly on paper. It is now online. We, as a board, review the application process. I think last year we had 29 applicants.
26. I think it's 26.
26. Okay. And Jen Golko, who's the principal of Freeport High School, is also on our board and helps to review those applications. One of the things that stands out for me as a board member is the level of consistency that a scholarship like this would provide for students. I work in higher ed, and it's a tough game out there for these students when they graduate from high school. So we're trying to buffer some of this for them. And I think something else that Fred didn't mention is that some of this mentoring begins actually when they're in high school. Some of this begins for some students in their junior year to really help them prepare so the money doesn't start in high school, but the mentoring starts a little earlier. Originally, the foundation's goal was $1 million. We have raised that goal to $2 million. We hope to fund 8 students annually, 4 students in the 4-year programs, and 4 students for vocational for 2 to 4 years, however long that takes them. We currently have about $1 million in cash and pledges. And we are actively reaching out to leadership donors in the area and outside the area, as well as putting an annual appeal together that we will be we sent our first annual appeal out in November, early December, and we'll continue to do that throughout the year. In 21 and 22, we awarded 2 scholarships to students who plan to attend a 4-year college. As Fred said, that was $5,000 a year. And we have awarded 1 technical school scholarship for a student who wants to be a welder. It's important to note that the governor's plan has changed around, there has been some tuition money for these students, but this scholarship money will help cover supplies, books, expenses, other things that the student may not be able to cover. Anything you want to add there?
Where are the students from?
Well, 3 of the students are from Durham and 2 of the students are from Freeport. So, and it is RSU 5, so it's Freeport High School. And we're hoping to have more, we're working with the guidance counselors at Freeport High School to have more applications this year as well. All members of our board give to this fund. And as Fred mentioned, it's made up of 12 community members. We've met with the Freeport Town Council and Pownell as well. And as I mentioned, our goal is $2 million. We have 2 asks for this group. The first ask is to consider a gift of $30,000 to support this effort. And this could be a one-time gift or a multi-year pledge. We really hope you'll consider that. The other thing we hope you will consider is that you can help provide mentors. And we don't currently have a board member from Durham. So we're hoping that you can get the word out on the foundation. It was founded in 21, as we said, and we've done a lot of work, but we have a ways to go. We need to double our funds right now. But that's what we're doing. So
I would add a couple of things. One is the funds are invested with Bath Savings Trust Company, and our goal is to have an annual return of 7%, and then we'll pay out 4%. We're able to pay out the 4%, but the 7% hasn't helped us given this current market. So as a result of that, we're going to stick to 2 students per year until the market turns.
Yeah.
And when it does turn, well, the difference between 7 and 4 will be added to the fund every year. And what we're hopeful is when we reach the $2 million, we'll be able to double the number of kids that we're providing service for, because there's no question that the need is there. That's it for me.
Board members have any questions?
When is your budget process?
Well, that's the bad news. I was waiting to see if they had it. So timing is not in your favor this year.
Have you already had?
Our town meeting is Saturday.
Ah.
And so we are well past the budget because we're on a calendar year cycle, not a
Yeah.
fiscal year cycle, which complicates things. Pownell is on a fiscal, so they probably still have time to consider for their
They did.
June.
We met with them last
Right,
night.
so the board has no authority to appropriate money like that. I mean,
Right.
that's like a town meeting vote. So the earliest opportunity would be next April, which the board, I would encourage you, probably later this fall when we're in, budget season to reach out to the town manager
okay.
and just refresh everybody's memory about, and request that an article be put on the warrant for the $30,000 gift. And then all we can do is put it out to voters and
they decide.
and they decide, right? So that would be a town meeting vote.
And the vote would be next year at this time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because our annual town meeting is the first Saturday in April. So that's, so unfortunately it's like, couldn't be worse timing, right? You're like right up against
Right.
the meeting and we got to wait a whole nother year.
But there are
before
2 other aspects that are budgetary considerations. One is
Right.
to help us get the word out.
Yep.
And the other is to find people in town that either want to serve on our board or mentor or both.
I think on those 2 things, we do have a weekly email newsletter that goes out to all the citizens. I think, unless there's an objection, I think we'd be happy to, put some information in there. If you have a write-up you provide that explains what's going on,
Right.
that maybe there's a link that people can go to for more information.
Yeah, there is.
You can talk about the mentors. We're happy to help in that way get.
We have a member of our board who works with mentors, and I think the goal is to have more mentors applying than we need, so we
Yep.
can really match the students with sort of a perfect mentor, like
Yep.
to have a large pool.
Yep.
So
You-
we will do this.
Yeah, and you'd also be welcome. I know it'd be short notice. You're welcome to be at the town meeting. Either you could either be there and, probably, have a table or something if you wanted to provide information, or you could just have a handout there for people to take. It's a good opportunity to
Mhm.
get exposure to a lot of people. So anything like that, I think we'd be happy to facilitate. But, ultimately it's got to be a town meeting vote at some
Yeah.
point that would determine that.
Well, the budget validation in Freeport includes, although we're a council form of government, we have that validation in a town form, a town meeting format.
That's strictly for the school budget, though.
Right, yeah. So I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
all right, well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good
I-
work.
I'm
We
gonna
won't
leave
be
a
late
couple
next
packets.
year.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, we do have a question, yes.
So on the mentoring program, do you have additional information on the website about what the mentors do and how that all works? Or is that something you'd have to hand out?
We do have information online about the mentors. Jen Fox is in charge of mentors on the board, and I can have her communicate with this group, with the
I
office
mean,
here.
that might help, get you the volunteers. I'm not seeing it right off here,
Okay.
just looking at it when I was looking at it the other day too. And so that might help get the word out on at least the mentoring part to start
Right, and
off
there's
with.
an application process for that.
And the other part about the mentoring is that, so you're reaching out to the students year after they're in school to help them with various things and from an aspect of financial stability or the whole gamut. What do you?
It can be the whole gamut. Really, there's a lot of obstacles when
Mhm.
students are in school, whether it's financial or, having a tough time studying or whatever, who to talk to. A lot of the mentorship is about being just a resource when the student has a question, like who am I supposed to talk to at the school? How do I do this? So that's where that mentor, I think our mentors are meeting monthly with either on the phone or in person.
Great.
So it's a significant role in the student's experience.
All right, great.
That actually prompts another question. I think you mentioned that sometimes the mentoring process starts early. So what's the timing of the application process and when the awards are made? Is that done during the junior year, or when does that
actually,
happen?
Of the two, both programs, actually, of the two awards that are made, one is made to a senior and the other is made to a junior.
Okay.
So it's a planned part of the program to work the junior and raise his or her aspirations to what he or she thinks she can do by giving them the scholarship, saying, when you graduate and if you go on, here's what's available
Got
to
it.
you.
Okay.
Good.
So
And
that
that's
junior
done-
has a full year.
Okay.
The process, you have a kid in the high school?
Two, actually.
Well, the process is to work through the kids to get the
Do
information.
you want to know their
on what-
names?
The process is to get a lot of the information to the kids, but it's been a while since my kids were in high school, but I remember back
It's
then that
tough.
half the stuff never got home.
Right.
So we're trying to work around that. And the other thing is on the vocational side, a fellow from Maine MVR10 is coming on our board. I think he's the assistant principal, and he's going to come on our board, and hopefully he will be able to increase that information flow as the kids from RSU 5 come up through
Yep.
this program.
Great. Anything else, guys?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you
Thank
again.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. I was thinking previous students.
I don't know, retroactive scholarships. Oh, I was gonna make a political joke, but I'm gonna let that one go. So I think somebody else is looking out after that. So. All right. So number 5 is the Durham ball field discussion. And so just to recap briefly, last week we had Durham Youth Baseball and 3-town Little League come before us, both essentially requesting an arrangement to lease the town field over here. One of the questions that came up in that discussion was whether the lease that had been signed by Durham Youth Softball was even valid anymore. And so we went to get, our town attorney's opinion on that. And the opinion on that is that it is not actually valid anymore. And it's kind of a moot point anyway, because we have received a letter from the former head of that organization, basically absolving their claims under that contract. So that's a clean slate. So there's no contract in the way or anything. So I'm going to, at this point, kind of kick it over to Rich, because Rich did some great work this week, playing Henry Kissinger and reaching out, amongst the two organizations and Freeport Rec, and just looking for a solution that would work, kind of as best as possible for everybody, and not leave just one organization kind of, out in the cold with us needing to decide who that was going to be. So go ahead, Rich, if you want to kind of recap your conversation.
To recap, after last meeting, I've been on this board, what are we 6 years now? And this probably has been the most inquiries I've gotten from parents and, walking around the communities or over by the school and things of that nature. So, in my opinion, I thought it was best if the two organizations, that being Little League, softball, work this out amongst each other, rather than a board such as us have to pass judgment on some kid's organization. It's just, nobody wants to do that. So I reached out to both presidents of the organization. I asked the softball president and their vice president if they could just come up with a list of, possible different scenarios that we could entertain, that we could pass on to the baseball organization to come up with an agreement of how this could be settled mutually amongst those two organizations versus Town of Durham Board or the rec department at the RSU 5. And they were both great, top notch. Both organizations were fantastic. And one of the softball entertained the idea of, well, just because we're a tri-town, why don't we just keep it simple? We will take, Durham baseball will forego their claim on the RSU 5 field as far as scheduling and so forth and things of that nature. And therefore, they could utilize the softball field that Durham has. And both parties said, yeah, that's a good idea, because it sheds a lot of things. It puts the onus of that field now on a local community to maintain and so forth. It sheds some of the costs to the softball organization of having to maintain a field and so forth outside of their their budget and things like that, where they would have to budget things that they haven't done in the past in terms of a new field and so forth, because that field every year needs a lot of work. It makes it less confusing for the players. It makes it less confusing for the parents. There's never, which field are we on tonight? And you park and you get all your gear and you got your little, whatever your pull behind is to bring all your stuff to the bleachers. And then you find out you got to move over to the DCS field. So they liked it from that component. And it was nice for Peter because, how do you decide? He was in the same situation as us. Peter Wagner, from Freeport Rec. Like, how do you decide which organization should take precedent or more time from another organization? So, like I said, both parties came up with this mutual agreement that Durham Youth Baseball would not schedule any of their events outside of T-ball on like soccer fields, maybe sprinkle in a couple of games there.
Not the actual DCS game
Not
field.
the actual DCS softball field. And play all of their games over on the town field. And then the softball entity would play all of their games on the RSU softball field. And it's good for the girls from the component of right now, currently Freeport doesn't have a middle school team. They play softball on this field. So Freeport is brought over this. So the idea that you want them to play together, now they're going to play on their field from the time they're essentially in U8 to the time they go up to the high school. So they'll have that field. They can learn just like a basketball court or anything. Every basketball court has its little nicks and crannies you need to be aware of when you're playing. It's a little home field advantage. So that is what the two organizations come up with, and they agreed to move forward from there.
Great. Any questions or comments from other board members?
Thank you for spearheading that.
Yeah, thank you.
It was the least I could do.
So the proposal we had from the Durham Youth Baseball on this field for the upkeep would be maintained by them.
There's still some irons in the fire that we would have to. I think we'll decide that probably after this in terms of how we want to proceed forward with them. Obviously, we'll probably at least at the minimum agree that they can start scheduling and start getting that field ready as the town potentially moves into a longer term lease.
Yeah. A potential move tonight would be to authorize the town manager to enter into a 3-year contract with Durham Youth Baseball for the use of that field. I would say, at least 3. I think
Right.
my sense after our experience with the other contracts, I think 3 with, some sort of renewal clause in there makes sense versus we certainly don't want the 99-year lease from years ago or even 7 starts to stretch it. So I think, 3-year with renewal clauses and
See how it starts,
and
yeah.
and Jerry can work with the organization and the lawyer just to make sure everything is covered and that the for maintenance of the field and
Insurance
all
and
that
stuff.
stuff. So that's a potential way to go.
And both parties, I did leave out a big crucial part to this, and both parties agree that, if for whatever reason they're not using that field or don't have a use for it at any given time, that, the other party obviously is, if they need some field time, they're welcome to use it.
Right.
Both parties agree
Yeah.
to that. So, I mean, they're at the end of the day, they're both municipal town fields and they are public property at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Regardless of a lease or,
Right.
precedence per se over
Yep.
on the RSU 5 field.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Good job.
So I guess I'll move that we authorize town manager to enter into a 3-year contract with Durham Youth Baseball for the use of the Durham field. We'll probably need to stop calling it the softball field for the Durham ball field, and also that we permit Durham Youth Baseball to begin scheduling and preseason things they need to do pending the signing of the lease.
I'll second that.
Joe's got a second. Any further discussion on that, Rich?
My only discussion would be is just to entertain the board and see what they're doing. For example, they may want a 5-year lease out of the gate if they're going to put a lot of money into the infrastructure there. For example, if they plan on going over there, moving fences, replanting grass, and again, I would think they would want a little bit longer term, maybe a 5-year term with maybe 2 or 3 5-year options there for after upon, things of that nature.
Anybody have any objections to that? Then I'll amend my motion that will authorize the town manager to enter into a contract of up to 5 years with Durham Youth Baseball.
With no options.
I'll second again.
With
The
negotiated options for
Yeah.
renewal. I mean, that could be between them. And the intent is sign a lease, and as long as it should be structured so that as long as they're performing and everything's going well, they can keep renewing it. But if for some reason it's not going well,
Or they disband.
or they
They
disband,
move out of town.
that the town has a way out of the contract if for some reason that's, if the performance isn't happening. So just standard contract stuff. So you amend your second along with that. So let me repeat the motion. Yeah, because I'm sure whoever's going to try to record this in the minutes is like, what the hell was the motion? So the motion is we authorize the town manager to enter into a contract with Durham Youth Baseball for up to 5 years with negotiated renewal clauses as the parties agree upon. and that we allow Durham Youth Baseball to proceed with scheduling and preseason work, pending the signing of the lease agreement. Because the lease agreement at the earliest won't be signed until, the next board meeting a couple of weeks from now. Might even be 3 weeks from now. Can't remember how the month works. But in the meantime, they need to keep going with their plans. So,
I do second that.
okay. Any further discussion?
Just thank both organizations for getting along and getting this done.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. They were fantastic, both parties.
Because I was not expecting that coming into this. So it's nice to see everybody working together for what's best for the kids.
For anybody too young to get the Henry Kissinger reference, he was a really good Secretary of State with great negotiating skills.
I was going to say, somebody's going to hang me up on Wiki. Who the heck is Henry Kissinger? I know
That was
I know who that is.
All right. All in favor of the motion? All right, great. Thank you, everybody.
Can I ask a question or make a comment, or can we not do that?
Technically, no, because I said we weren't doing it because we're outside of public comment, but any objection from the board if we open the floor to comments for a minute? Okay.
No,
go ahead.
I just want to thank Rich for kind of negotiating everything. It was a huge help. We do have a lot of scheduling stuff coming up here in the next week or so. So I think it's big for both organizations to have this settled. So I appreciate that very much. Just a quick question. I know after, I think, Saturday's town meeting, there's going to be a new board. Is their new select board bound by the decision here on this lease piece tonight?
Well, the vote was to authorize the town manager to
Okay.
do the contract.
Okay.
And so the only way that wouldn't happen is if the board voted again after the fact
Yeah.
to rescind that. And I think that's very unlikely.
The fact of the matter, there's 3 board members that will be here for the next board that will,
Yeah.
it'd be hard for, they could, I guess.
So, yeah, that's one of the reasons we did it this way, so we wouldn't leave it in limbo.
Yeah, so appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We have department head reports. Fire chief is up first tonight.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
You're the new Marty Walsh, apparently.
Marty Walsh?
Marty Walsh, right?
More like Marty McFly, buddy.
We'll move this on quickly. Not on your agenda. I get a daily dispatch across my desk. It's Maine Fire Department struggles, for calls, programs, that type of stuff. Today, Bodenham, and wait for the punchline. Bodenham is weighing its options after struggling with its current EMS provider. So Bodenham contracts with Northeast, private ambulance company. And this is public knowledge through everything. So their contract is $50,000 annually to provide EMS coverage to Bodenham. And that doesn't include the revenue that they garner from transports. Recently, in January, Northeast requested, instead of $50,000 annually, $67,000 a month.
Wow.
Or consider their relationship terminated in 90 days.
ambulance?
Are you kidding me?
I can't even, my head hurts at the computation of that
So-
percentage increase.
You get extra time, we could go to Bowden?
Or consider their relationship terminated in 90 days.
Jeez.
Uh,
90 days.
So they have worked it out until the end of June. From what I gather, Lisbon EMS may pick up that contract. The reason I bring it up to the board is several, and those at home. When you contract with a private ambulance, that's a 90-day for the town and for the ambulance, you can cancel a contract. You're left high and dry. Again, a big
Crazy.
fan of fire-based EMS. In this case, Lisbon going over is great for Lisbon, but there's a trickle-down effect for Durham. So what happens in Bodenham affects Durham Fire EMS.
Oh, yeah.
Because if they're, and we've already been to Bodenham on a call in the last few months, motor vehicle accidents. So if Lisbon is tied up and they're way over in Bodenham, we conceivably could be mutual aid to Lisbon.
Yep.
Just on the radar.
Yeah, no, that's
And the
good.
reason I
We
bring
charge $67,000 a run?
it's main care.
I'm sorry, I
We've been down that
shouldn't
road.
I shouldn't say.
Because your fire department is experiencing first quarter a 24%. It's gone up increase in call volume. So for this quarter, we're well over 100 911s already. So we're on pace for record-breaking call volume in Durham. And again, you brought that up before, aging population, higher population, mutual aid. We're all doing more with less, if you will. And again, Durham Rescue EMS is holding their own. There hasn't been a day that it's not covered that per diem shift, 7 to 7. And that's just because of the per diems across the street. That's the EMS, every morning this week, we were woken up to a chest pain call by 5:30, 6 a.m. The volunteers come out because we're still volunteer at night after 7 o'clock. They're still killing it. They're still doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
But, guys are moving out of town and moving further. So just information for the board moving further of what's really happening around us.
Yeah.
But your rescue is still top notch. I've been working on requests for proposals, the RFPs, for our capital improvements upon voters' decisions Saturday. And of course, that's with the town manager involvement in accordance with the town municipal purchasing policy. So we'll have to do that. Recently, we paid for a battery backup system that was installed on our radio system. And that's piggybacked onto the county system that we house across the street. And that really provides redundancy. So if there's like a local power problem in the station, we're on battery backup. And if the generator fails, which it's failed to start a couple times, we're on battery backup. So nothing is more important than the radios and getting the message out, really. So that was a no-brainer. Recently, last Thursday, I attended a professional development conference. That was the Maine Fire Chiefs. That was on, vendors and incident command. Yesterday, myself and the fire department PIO, the public information officer, we did a 4-hour Zoom on a PIO class by a nationally syndicated fire chief that I know. Really talks about grants and getting the message out and branding and appropriate platforms and what's not appropriate to send out for messaging type of thing. So very good information. And today I was over in Freeport with local fire chiefs and state forest wardens. They put on a presentation of grants, resources that the wardens offer, permitting for your brush piles, that type of thing. So just kind of what's standard in the industry for us type of. And last but not least, on my behalf, the fire department would like to recognize the work of both Kevin and Todd in support given to the fire department over the years. It's appreciated. You've challenged us and kept us honest, kept us busy on some nights. But on behalf of the fire department, we appreciate your due diligence and being part of that. That is all I have.
Thank
If
you.
have any questions.
We are, I just say, we are so fortunate to be in the situation we are with our fire and rescue. And when you hear story after story about what's going on in surrounding towns. So I think it'll be important, and I know that you're all over this, to make sure we have a over the horizon view with our EMS and threats on the horizon and things to plan for, so that we don't have a 90-day emergency thing to react to, that we have a plan for long-term sustainability of that service. So, but thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Calvin.
We got, you guys have these, right? So we've been, crews have still been responding to storms, black ice and events right up until just the other night. Looks like we'll be doing that again a few more times. We've been out working on the gravel roads, getting those up to, as this time of year, they get full of potholes and people that live on them aren't very happy that they do. And so we can't grade them yet, because if we tear into them and rip them up and then the water coming out gets mixed in, you'd have mud that deep and they wouldn't be happy with us. So we have to try to Band-Aid the top until things dry out enough for us to grade them in May. The stream crossing project for Swamp Road scheduled for bid opening tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Jerry and I will be there at Public Works for that. Hope we get good results. We're planning to lift along with Pownell and Freeport, lift the seasonal road postings April 1st, so we're going to pull them this Friday morning. Jerry invited MMA, probably seen this in probably his report also, to come and do an assessment of Public Works and Fire and Town Office to see if we were in compliance or how safe we were and whether our policies were in alignment with state and look at the facilities from a risk management standpoint. And we scored off the charts there. So he was very impressed with what we've got. I'll be attending an APWA annual training conference on April 6th with Jerry for where I'll be awarded the Rhodes Scholar Award. That's a few years overdue, but we haven't ever since Jerry
What'd you have
left.
to do for that?
No, leadership
lot of
training and roadway fundamental trainings and.
All right.
So the fire department's going to come over and talk to the chief. He's going to come over and do our annual required fire extinguisher training so that we can keep up with MMA's, stay in their good graces. And so that's good that we have a fire department that can do that. So because we've done it before and gotten not so good marks for not having a hands-on training with fire. So that actually works out good. I guess, yeah, that's it.
So is the new truck all repaired, back to normal, all that?
It's the door is painted and just waiting to be swapped back out. So it was $500 to get the door painted and swapped over. So
No harm, no foul.
Yeah, everybody did a good job. Everybody did a great job on that storm. That storm was pretty slippery, the last one. Yeah, that was, wasn't very much fun for anybody, including you guys. I
Nope.
happened to be listening and sounded like you guys had everything under control out there, so.
So, do you have an idea or an update? I know sometimes it's hard in terms of the road postings.
Friday morning,
This Friday morning.
along with Pownell, Freeport, Brunswick, we're all doing the same time. So.
And I didn't ask, I didn't ask
I said April
the
1st.
chief,
I said
but
April
maybe
1st.
you have some of the data as well, Calvin, is how are the road signs at Swamp Road? Has everybody been happy with those, with the blinking signs?
Yeah,
And
I-
it lessened our blow on the calls down the corner there
Yeah.
at Newsbrook and Swamp?
I think we had some weather related.
Yeah,
Accidents there.
which would be expected.
Sure, but nothing since.
Nothing's, yeah, it's interesting. That's good news, actually.
Well, I think it's awesome. You sit there and the
Yeah.
lights flashing, you wait until it stops flashing. And
Exactly,
so
yeah. No, I think, I've noticed it seems to be quiet.
I see a lot less people heading over in the ditch or the other side going up that way. So
You can now just give me a crosswalk so my kid can ride a bike to school.
Oh, Jesus.
I'll take like above the road ramp too. That would work.
All right, great. Thank you.
How's it going?
Keep up the good work.
Town, uphill both ways from your house, right?
Good exercise, buddy. Good exercise. Better than video games is all I can tell you.
Town manager report.
All right, well, thank you. I'll just expand on what Calvin was saying. So to get his road scholar, he has to take 10 workshops, 7 required, 3 elective. And what made him get the award was he took a supervisory training through the APWA, and that's what
Great.
So that's a pretty good, achievement, really, because it takes a while. And there's a lot of folks out there that aren't getting it because the program has kind of slowed down a little bit, especially with COVID, that sort of thing. The MMA thing, yeah, I did invite MMA, like I told you I was going to. I'll get some policies and plans in place to show the board that we keep to help us get our mod rate down. But the MMA guy was actually the police chief of the municipality that I worked before, so I know the guy well. And he called up after visiting both of their shops and said, "You guys are top notch." I couldn't find anything.
Great.
So
Calvin.
that's really
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
good job.
Actually. So you can't say that a lot about public works garages and fire stations and things like that. But so hats off to them. Nice job, really. That's gonna help because our mod rate is up there, but we should start seeing some savings after September. So we're kind of locked in with what we have now, but we have a goal in September to at least get it down 5%. So there's that. Other than, I was gonna report on that, but Calvin stole my thunder.
That's why I said you would expand.
Once I saw that, so I'll just update you on ARPA. How's that? Sure. So ARPA funds, we're going into town meeting. I'm sure this might be talked about. So we got a total of 422,213. Okay, so there was a special town meeting where we committed 119,230 for the HVAC in both here, fire station, insulation in the ceiling here, the upgrades to the computers and phones, and then the GIS digitized mapping. So all of doing that was 119,230. So the HVAC and insulation, that's all done. We're good. So the total estimate for that was 57,730. We total spent was 46,284. There's a remaining 11,446 left that will go back into the fund. Okay. So the computers, telephones, those are done. We had an estimate of 45,000 to do that. Total spent was 30. That bought 2 laptops, 7 desktops, includes all the cable software set up. The remaining balance there is 14,191. If you add the remaining from the HVAC and the computers down below, there's 25,000. That will end up going 25,637. That will go back into the fund. The digitizing, we haven't been billed on that yet, but that's 16,500. That's a 12,500 to actually have them digitized, but there's a 2-year updating of those maps estimated for 2,000 a year. That will take us out to the 26th level.
Okay.
So if you go over to the right, you'll see how that all sort of plays out. So if you take what we have spent so far, the remaining funds is that 328,620. If you add the 25 back in from the HVAC and the computers.
I'm sorry, but isn't that 25 already added back into that 328? Because the 422 minus 93, 583 is 328.
Well, we could. I don't think so.
Do you see what? Because the 422, 213.87 minus 93, 593, which was spent at the special town meeting, is the 328 number.
Right.
Yeah,
But then you're adding it back in, but you've already, isn't it already?
No, if you go down here to these red numbers, what we actually spent was the 93,593. If you take that away from the 119, you're left with a 25.
Yeah, the
Right.
328, I believe, is the remaining funds if all of the funds in the 4 articles have been spent. No,
No, that would,
Isn't it the 422 minus 93 comes up to the
328.
Yeah, 328.
So I think there's only 49 and change left in the ARPA funds.
yeah, actually, you know what? That makes sense because because I remember I was working on the presentation for town meeting, and if assuming everything in the first round had been spent, and then if everything passed at town meeting, there was going to be like $23,000 left over. So if we're adding 25 back in, 25 and change, so that makes sense if it's 49 or something. I think the way these numbers are listed, they're not really listed in like mathematical presentation. It's just a list of numbers, so it's tough to follow.
But the 354.
But no, I agree with you. There should, if everything, above $50,000.
Yeah, it should, right, yeah. So still, I mean, that's good. I mean, that's, that'll be up to the, next board to come up with what they think, want to propose is the best use of that money.
Right.
So,
Retirement severance package for next year.
Yeah, do that after I leave, right? Yeah, now all of a sudden there's severance. Yeah, we're good. All right. Okay, what else you got? This is good. Thank you.
That's pretty much it, but I'm gonna check that I did it like 3 times.
Yeah, just it can get tricky when you're when
It's
you're
gonna be the 25, 637 below, so it's gonna be 48, 6.
Right, it's gonna be the difference, yeah. No, I get it, yep.
so. Okay, so all right, any other questions for Jerry? All right. I would entertain a motion on the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
We have a movement from Josh,
I'll second.
Joe second. All in favor? Unanimous. Upcoming meetings, next select board meetings are April 11th and April 25th, 6:30 here at the town office. But before we get to that, we have our annual election on this Friday, March 31st at the Eureka Center from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then the annual town meeting, which starts at 9 a.m. at the Durham Community School. But, it's best to show up a little early because it takes a while to get your voting card and get checked in and get a seat and all that. So we'd like to start the meeting at 9 a.m. if as close to that as possible. And then the planning board has a meeting on April 5th. Do we need an executive session tonight?
No, we're
Okay.
good.
All right, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved by Todd.
Just for discussion, I think before we adjourn, I think the board, on behalf of all the board, we'd like to thank you and Todd for all the work you guys have done over the years. Obviously, we can talk more come Saturday morning at the big event. But thank you guys. I got to serve all 6 of the current years that I've been on this board with both you gentlemen, and I really appreciate it. Enjoyed every minute of it, with the exception of a few.
Maybe not every minute.
It sounds better that way.
Yeah.
I don't mess up my thunder.
Sorry.
Okay, but I do appreciate all the work that you guys done, and I'm sure these gentlemen can speak to the same. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you both for your service to the town, and I've learned a lot this past year. It's been a great experience so far. And I know I've worked with Todd on the planning board years ago and worked with Kevin on other projects. So it's been really great. Thank you.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. And, leaving the board, but not leaving town, I've told, I'm available, as a resource or, whatever, so I'm not looking to join any committees in the first couple of months out of the gate, but,
By the 25th.
and, we tend to recycle the same people over and over in this town. So we'll probably both be back at some point doing something.
Yeah.
So, but thank you. Appreciate that. It's been great. And definitely, a little bittersweet, but mostly sweet, just to take a break.
Take a break.
Yep.
Reflect.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
All right. Any further discussion? Actually, I don't know if we have a second on the adjournment motion yet.
Do a second.
Second from Joe. Any further discussion on that?
You didn't make the motion to adjourn, did you?
Somebody did.
I did.
Todd did. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Todd did. I second.
I just echo the thank you to both of you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. We have the warrant here to sign. And so all in favor of adjournment? We are adjourned.
All right, Josh, you're gonna have to